Today, we're talking about something that's poised to affect every single one of us in this room and every client we have. Two massive energy projects, Lava Run and Black Ridge, could permanently change the White Mountains as we know them. We really are at a crossroads, and it is absolutely critical that we understand the real long-term costs. So let's dive in.
As realtors, we know this statement is the absolute truth. We don't just move properties. We sell this view, this feeling, this entire lifestyle. This landscape right here, it's the foundation of our property values. It's the engine of our tourism economy, and it's what's at stake.
So, before we even start breaking down what's being proposed, let's just be crystal clear on the asset that's at risk. We're not just talking about acres of land. We're talking about the irreplaceable character of the White Mountains. Okay, here are the specifics. The Lava Run and Black Ridge projects are planned for the US 60 corridor, smack dab between Vernon and Springerville. This isn't some far-off proposal in the middle of nowhere. It's slated for the main artery of our community, a highway that's vital for all of us and for the tourists who fuel our economy.
Now look, the developers, they're painting a really rosy picture. Clean energy, local jobs, big tax revenues. And it's our job, our responsibility, to look past those promises and ask the tough questions. What's the full story behind these numbers? That's what we're here to figure out.
Let's start with the most fundamental part of this whole thing. The one detail that honestly changes everything. The sheer, almost unimaginable scale of these projects. To get some perspective, just look at this chart. The only other major wind farm in the state, Dry Lake, puts out about 128 megawatts, okay? Now look at what's being proposed for our backyard. Lava Run is almost 4 times that size. And Black Ridge? It's a monster. A staggering 9 times bigger. And this is the key takeaway right here. We have to change how we talk about these. These are not quaint little wind farms. These are mega-scale industrial energy factories. And that distinction means everything, because it completely changes their impact on our community, our roads, and our landscape. And that industrial scale, well, it comes with a pretty hefty price tag, starting on day one with construction. Let's just look at what it would take to build these things. For years, our region could become one giant construction zone.
The numbers are just staggering. Let's start with just the turbine parts for the Lava Run project. Alone, we're talking about over 1,400 heavy-haul truck deliveries on our roads.
And that's just for the big pieces. The concrete for the foundations for those turbines, that's another estimated 5,000 or more concrete truck deliveries. And remember, that's just for one of the two projects. We haven't even touched on the solar components yet. This really puts it all into perspective. A comparable solar project in the region needed over 40,000 total equipment and material trips. 40,000! That's the reality of industrial construction. Tens of thousands of truck trips, day in and day out, clogging up our highways. So this is the bottom line question for us, for our clients, for the future of our entire market. How can our tourism economy, which literally depends on scenic drives and peaceful escapes, compete with a multi-year industrial convoy on our main highway? The simple answer is, it can't. All right, so let's say we somehow survive the years of construction. What then? What's the long-term legacy we're left with? What does our community actually get in return for all this disruption, and what are the hidden costs?
You hear the promises, right? 500 construction jobs. But the data shows they're temporary. After the build-out, one project estimates maybe 20 permanent positions. They promise millions in taxes, but independent analysis shows these facilities generate lower long-term tax revenue than traditional power plants. The boom is a flash in the pan, but the industrial park is here for decades.
And here's something else. These facilities aren't permanent. They're giant industrial machines, and they have a shelf life of about 20 to 30 years. After that, their performance drops, and they become a liability. So who pays for decommissioning? Where do thousands of tons of fiberglass blades and old solar panels go? These are questions that leave a massive burden for our grandkids.
And it's not just about money and waste. There's a documented environmental price. Bird fatalities at these massive facilities are a tragic reality. For example, California's Ivanpah solar facility is estimated to kill up to 28,000 birds a year. This isn't a possibility. It's a certainty when you operate infrastructure at this scale. It will impact our local wildlife.
And as the analysis makes perfectly clear, these aren't theoretical concerns. They are documented outcomes from real-world projects that are already out there. We have the data. We can see exactly what the future holds if we go down this path.
But the impact,
It goes so much deeper than just numbers and data. It strikes at something that's harder to measure but every bit as valuable, our irreplaceable heritage. And to understand this threat, we need to look at a powerful example that's happening right now.
This is the Minidoka National Historic Site in Idaho. It commemorates the unjust incarceration of over 13,000 Japanese Americans during World War II. It's described as a sacred site of conscience, a place for reflection, for healing, and for remembrance.
And right now, a massive wind project called Lava Ridge threatens to completely surround this sacred site. The turbines would be highly visible from Minidoka, shattering the historic landscape and that profound feeling of isolation that is so essential to understanding what happened there.
And that brings the lesson right back home to the White Mountains. What are our sacred sites? The quiet vistas, the historic trails, the very landscapes that define our heritage. What is the permanent cost of industrializing that identity? Because it's a price that, once paid, can never be recovered.
So let's bring all of this together. For the White Mountain Board of Realtors, this isn't just some abstract debate. This is about the future of our business and our community. This is the bottom line.
Let's just summarize the key facts. First, these decisions are being made at the state level, very likely bypassing local control. Second, the construction traffic is a multi-year nightmare for tourism and local life. Third, the promised jobs are mostly temporary. Fourth, the environmental impacts are proven, they are not theoretical. And finally, number 5, the damage to the scenic landscape, the very product we sell, is permanent and irreversible.
In the end, the data is clear. The risks to our economy, our environment, and our identity are immense, and they are well documented. With the very character of the White Mountains hanging in the balance, the final question we have to ask ourselves is this: what is the true cost of doing nothing?